How's it going, everybody? Bleed tends to be a pretty straightforward mechanic in most games, it's kind of self-explanatory. And most of you know that Bleed unlocks certain properties for specific heroes in For Honor, like Shaman can heal when hitting someone that's bleeding, and also unlocks a bite ability. The Bushi's passive Way of the Shark increases her damage, and Peacekeeper gets unblockable heavies when targeting someone that's bleeding. All these are explained in the moveset of the hero, but that's not really what makes Bleed strong. Whether it's overpowered, we'll discuss at the end, because while it has many upsides, there are also very obvious downsides to it. And we're also going to tackle some misconceptions in regard to damage reduction and Bleed. Let's start with that and a quick recap on how damage reduction works. There are 3 stages. It's 100% damage, 75% and 25%. After that, you get reset to neutral, which is what we always refer to as the third hit stun rule when we talk ganks. As an example, you get guard broken with 2 opponents around you. The first attack does full damage, and the second attack deals 75% damage because it hits you while you are still in hit stun of the first one. A third attack during that hit stun will only deal 25%. This is very easily demonstrated with the wall splat. The wall splat counts as the first, the second hit is not damage reduced, but the third attack here only deals 25%. It's a little confusing, I admit, but this is also one of the reasons why you never go for wall splats with multiple teammates around you. Now, what does Bleed have to do with all of it? Bleed moves usually have 2 components to it, a direct damage portion attack and then the follow-up Bleed. And just like in the example I gave you, the direct damage portion, aka the first part, that one does get damage reduced, but the following Bleed does not. Now, when we do it in third hit stun, then the Bleed is also damage reduced. But since you want to avoid third hit stun pretty much categorically, we can consider it somewhat irrelevant to the discussion. This allows you to apply Bleed during damage reduced actions like counter guard break or throws even, because you still get 99% of the value of the move. You don't care about your 1 damage move being reduced by 25%. It's negligible to say the least. But that's not the only reason why you can spam Bleed into someone. Bleed does not feed revenge by itself. Like I explained, most Bleed moves consist of a direct damage and a Bleed portion, and only the direct damage does feed revenge. And as most of you know, the revenge amount that is fed depends on how much base damage a move does. In the case of Bleed attacks, it is very low, between 1 and 2 usually. So not only are you not doing reduced damage with Bleed attacks, you're also not feeding a lot of revenge. Combined, this could very much be considered overpowered. Thus, the thumbnail. If used correctly, you can very easily delete the health bar of someone and the person is scratching their head while they only got like a quarter of a revenge bar. So what are the downsides of Bleed then? Well, for one, it takes time to tick down. It's not instant damage. It takes upwards of 8 seconds for all Bleed to do its damage. And it's not always obvious whether someone's bleeding out or not. I am notorious here for not realizing this. Accidental revenge feeding because you want to chip them down. Which is, I guess, another upside of Bleed. Chip damage hitting the guard can bring someone into bleeding out territory. But this extra time also brings the potential of a comeback, or maybe even still getting that full revenge bar, or maybe capping a point. It's whatever really. And Bleed can also be cleansed. The ubiquity of heals in For Honor is not to be underestimated. The strongest hero in Falls right now has a team heal, for example. Maybe I still have to clip where I save cube. You'll see it on screen then.
I do
Come
always.
here.
Just happen to be you. It's tier 4.
And then we have Shalin's tier 3 passive, JJ's tier 3, or just second wind I guess. Or simply stepping on a point for a millisecond and bam, all Bleed is cleansed. The question is it enough of a downside? Which I think is not quite the case. The positives far outweigh the negatives. The negatives are just way more apparent to everybody, which might also be one of the reasons why it's not complained about more by a larger portion of the community. But yeah, now you hopefully know a little bit more about Bleed and why having a move that applies it is kind of convenient. Let me know your thoughts on this and if you would attempt to fix it in some form or another, and especially how would you do it. Having said that, hope the video was helpful. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.